Okay, so my name's Mick Wyldbore. I'm a station manager for Derbyshire Fire and Rescue Service. I'm currently lead for EDI within the service, and I'm the vice chair for AFSA. EDI it's gained in prominence over the last few years. I think as a service we've recognised the benefits of EDI knowledge within all sorts of layers of the organisation, really. I think a few years ago, if we're honest, it was, I would say, superficial. So we were out there, we were delivering an EDI, we were doing what we thought, EDI was all about. But as we've progressed and as we've matured as a service, we've recognised that it's sort of the importance of it and how it affects how people can do their job more efficiently and more effectively and get value for money as a service, really. As a result of that, we've started to invest more and more into the EDI department and get the influence and the governance throughout the organisation as a whole. Yes, I think somewhat. Obviously, the political landscape that you find yourself in, that dictates the focus of your work. So having that external recommendations and to some extent of pressure, that focuses people's minds onto where the areas of work that we need to focus in on. So for me, yeah, it's been hard. It's been tough to hear. You get this feedback on a service that you are invested in and you love the work that you're doing, and to hear that the criticism in some cases, but there's an element of tough love there. You hear it, and if you've got the right mentality about it, you'll take that on the chin and move things forward. And I think that's only going to be positive for the sector and for the organisation as a whole, really. I think the biggest change is we've implemented EDI structurally into the organisation now. So it sort of tainted what I said earlier about you could argue that some of the stuff we did was superficial and to be seen to be doing it. And an example of that is people impact assessments. We've got the legal responsibility to do the equality impact assessments, as we call them now. And back in the day, we would do them, but they would almost be an afterthought. They would be something that we thought, think, oh, we need to have that done. We'll write one up, and at least we've got it in a drawer somewhere. But when you wanted to interrogate them or find out what had been done and what hadn't been done, it was very difficult. And we had people running a project, for example, they'd fill one in at the back end and just say, right, I've done it. It's a tick list. The reality of that, the importance, the impact on that is zero. So what we've done now as a service is we've made it easier for people to do. So we've created an automated system. It's an online system, so anyone can access it from any time. They can revisit it, but that information that they put in is then pinged to different people depending on the project or the policy that they're changing to provide that information. So we've got eyes on right the way across the service. In addition to that, an example of how we've embedded that into the organisation are project boards. So any new projects that come up, we've moved the EQIAs forward, so we've front-loaded anything now. So in the past, you could move on with the project that you were doing, and then last minute go, oh, we needed to do this, let's do it, and we'll take it. But as now, any new projects are presented to the project board, unless they've got an equality impact assessment completed, it gets stopped. And it'll get sent back, do your assessment, bring it back to us, make sure you've looked at it. And I think the reason for that is, well, not only is it best practice, but financially it makes more sense. If we can identify things right at the beginning, we might not invest and go down a road that is not a road we need to go down. So structurally, we've changed within the organisation. And I think now we are investing more as well. So when I first started, we had, we didn't have any EDI officers because the role was vacant, really. But we had myself as a station manager, and it was a part of my role. So I do EDI as an element of my job. So it's not specialist, it's just a bolt on to my role. And then we had two EDI officer positions. Now we've progressed and understand the importance of it and the way we want to embed it across the service. We've invested in a head of department. And now, as of January next year, we'll have a head of department who will be, a subject matter expert at that group manager level to be able to hold people to account. So going back to the EQIAs, if one's not done or not followed up or not amended, then we have that governance in place that we can chase that up and make sure that our people are being represented in the work that we've done. We've also expanded the team, so we've got now 2 EDI officers and a positive action officer as well. So going forward, we've invested into the people, into the organisation as a whole, and that can only be a good thing, really. Like I said, when I first started, I've only been a station manager for about 3 years now. And when I made that decision to step up into that role, I knew I was going to be presented with pieces of work that I've not necessarily been involved in the past. And I was handed the EDI role. And for me, at that point, right, okay, inclusion, I sort of know what it is, but I've not dealt with it on a day-to-day basis. And to be fair, I felt a little bit lost. I can research things and I can get my head around things, but not having that lived experience and not sort of having it as a day-to-day element of my work, or not recognising that I had it as a day-to-day element of work, was quite intimidating, really. Now, very early on, I got an email from AFSA informing me, about the organisation, the next conference, and I managed to sort of speak to my line managers and just say, look, I think there's something I need to go on. I can pick up some information and it'll help me a little bit. And that's exactly what I did. As soon as I came in, I came on my own. I was quite intimidated, if I'm going to be honest. Walking in, I'm not Asian. I don't consider myself to be, underrepresented or anything like that. And in many ways, I'm walking in almost feeling like the oppressor. Do you know what I mean? So what welcoming was I going to get? Almost immediately, as soon as I walked in, people were coming up to me. Where are you from? How are you doing? What's your role? Welcome. And that sort of warm hug, from want of another better word, that just reassured me, and it provided me, or it told me that it was a safe space. That for me, that psychological safety was paramount, because I could come in and I could ask questions and I could probe when people were saying, well, this is what their experience, without fear of being told, well, you don't know because you're not Asian, or you don't know because you're not a woman. It was taken on board. There was an education there. They didn't want to put me down. They wanted to bring me up. And I think that's the key for it. The level of support that I've received has just been phenomenal. We talked earlier about the EQIA process. It came directly from AFSA. The conversations in and around, the presentations they have, they're great. But it's the spaces between, it's the conversations, it's the sitting around and having a glass of wine at the end of the conference. That's where all of the knowledge and the learning and support for me personally has come from. So when they needed something to be done, some assistance, I was only happy to feed back and to put my hand up and say, yeah, whatever you want, I'll help on. And that's how I ended up being voted in as vice chair.